Alex moved through the house like someone walking underwater. Every step felt heavy, every breath caught on the same snag. The maple out back shivered in a late breeze, leaves tapping the window with a sound that used to mean nothing at all. Now, everything had a meaning he didn't want. There was a tiny blue pail under the porch eave, tipped on its side, a few white stones still inside. Daniel had loved white stones. He'd say they were moon pieces, hold them up to the light with his eyebrows lifted like the sky itself had delivered a gift. Anna stood at the sink with both hands around a cold mug. The handle pointed toward her, but she didn't lift it. She stared at the yard as if the grass might rise and show her where time went. Her sweatshirt swallowed her frame, and her hair was tied in a loose knot that kept loosening. When she finally looked over at Alex, her eyes weren't red anymore. It was a different kind of tired. The kind that lands and makes a home behind your face. "I finished the worksheet," she said. Her voice was soft, like she was speaking into a church. "The one where we write the 3 things we miss and the 3 things we're grateful for." "Me too," Alex said, touched his back pocket, feeling the folded paper there like a splint. "You want to read first, or should I?" "You," she said, and held the mug tighter, though she wasn't drinking. He cleared his throat. "I miss his nap sounds." The way he breathed heavier for a couple minutes, then settle. "I miss the way he said yellow. I miss his socks, never staying on, like he was trying to make the floor feel as much of him as it could." His voice thinned at the end, but he kept going. "I'm grateful we got 4 years. I'm grateful for you." Her mouth trembled, then steadied. She nodded, looked down at her paper, then up again. "I miss his little hand on my shoulder when he'd come to our bed. He always put it in the same spot, like he was claiming it. I miss the way he'd say, 'almost there,' when we were driving, even if we just left. I miss his shoes on the wrong feet." She blinked hard. "I'm grateful for the photos. I'm grateful he knew love every single day. I'm grateful that we still talk like this. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough, but it was something." The therapist said to keep naming the things that were true, so the silence didn't start naming things for them. They went to counseling on Tuesdays and Thursdays. They sat on a couch the color of oatmeal, while a woman with kind eyes asked them where the pain lived. Alex said behind his ribs. Anna said behind her mouth. The woman said, "Grief comes like weather. Some days you get a drizzle. Some days you get an ocean." She told them to breathe like they were pulling a string from the base of the spine through the throat and out the lips. She told them to keep the rituals. Keep dinner, keep folding laundry together, keep walking the trail by the creek, even if it made them cry. They tried. They tried so hard they were sore from trying. He worked from the small desk in the spare room that used to be a playroom. The little table with crayons was still there. He didn't move it. He told himself he'd move it next week. He told himself that every week. Anna kept the house clean in ways she never cared about before. She lined up shoes by the door, wiped the counters even when they were already clean, organized drawers by color. "Control is a boat," the therapist had said. "Take it when the storm rises." Some nights they held each other and didn't speak because words felt like spoons trying to dig out a boulder. Other nights, they spoke until the clock insisted on sleep. They read from the little books people gave them. Grief books, devotions, letters from other parents who survived. They lit a candle on the mantel at dinner. They said his name out loud, so it stayed in the air of the home. Daniel. They practiced saying his name without flinching. They didn't always succeed. On this night, the sky had closed early. The forest around the cabin leaned in with a hush. They lived deep enough that neighbors were an idea, more than a presence, a set of lights you might catch between branches half a mile downhill. The winter had been hard, and the spring came with wet ground and a heavy green smell. Alex cooked a little pasta while Anna set the table. They ate in small bites, stopped, ate again. He reached across for her hand. She gave it. They did that often now, making little bridges with skin. I dreamed of him, Anna said. Tell me. He was wearing the red jacket, the one with the missing button. He was in the yard putting rocks in the pail. He kept showing me the same rock, like he wanted me to see as the best one. I asked him what made it the best, and he said it feels like a promise. Alex had to swallow twice. I like that. Me too. They sat there while the candle's flame made a small gold pool on the table. The room felt tight with the kind of quiet that pressed on your ribs. He could feel the edges of a sob stalking him, but it passed. They cleared the dishes and washed them side by side. He dried. She put them away. Not because the plates needed to be clean right then, but because they needed to be doing something that ended. They moved to the couch. The couch had indentations still shaped like a child's knees. Alex put an arm around Anna and felt how brittle she felt under the softness. She leaned into him and breathed like the therapist taught. In for 4, hold for 4, out for 6. He matched her. Outside, the woods spoke in their usual creaks and distant owl calls. A branch fell somewhere, a thump followed by a drag that was probably only a raccoon making choices in the dark. None of it made them look toward the windows. They'd learned the language out here. I don't know how to be a wife and a mother without a child, Anna murmured. You're still both to me, Alex said. And to him. I know it. She nodded into his shirt. I keep thinking there's a door I missed. Like in a hallway, if I just reached out my hand at the right time, I could have opened something we couldn't see. He didn't say the thing about doctors and nurses and medicine, and how there are doors that are locked no matter how many hands beat on them. He just kissed her hair and held her a little tighter. A sound came then that didn't belong to the catalog of their woods. It wasn't the truck down on the county road. It wasn't an elk calling across distance. It wasn't an owl or a coyote, not the brittle chatter of a squirrel, not the slow complaint of a leaning pine. It was soft and high, almost a whimper, almost a question. It brushed the porch boards with the tiniest creak, stopped, creaked again. A pattern like small steps, not a deer's multi-step skitter, not a bear's heavy settle. 2 steps, pause, 2 steps, pause. As if someone was learning how to walk on a new floor. Anna sat up. Do you hear that? She whispered. I hear it, Alex said. They both paused. The sound came again. A soft keening threaded through it, the kind of sound babies make when they want comfort but haven't decided to cry. Alex felt a heat move through his chest that was part fear and part recognition from a place that had nothing to do with the brain. He stood slowly. Stay here, he said, but it was the kind of instruction that was more habit than rule. He went to the gun cabinet in the hall, unlocked it, and took down the old lever rifle his grandfather left him. He checked the chamber the way he always did, careful hands, nothing loud. He didn't want to scare whatever was out there, but he also couldn't walk blind into the dark with only hope. Anna followed to the edge of the hall. Is it a person? I don't think so, he said. It sounds small. Small like a child. He met her eyes and saw the same thought cut through both of them, not in words, more like a ripple of feeling. He moved to the front door and pressed his ear near the wood. The steps crossed the porch again, light and uneven, followed by a breathy whine. Alex lifted the latch and pulled the door open a careful inch. The porch light washed a shallow circle onto the boards. At first he saw only the swing and the 2 boots he kept by the mat. Then, near the rail, something small shifted, turned, and looked toward the thin bar of light, with eyes that reflected in a way no human eyes ever would. He opened the door wider without thinking. The figure was no taller than a kitchen table, crouched with its hands spread on the planks. The hands were long and padded, fingers curled with tiny black nails. Fur covered it in a shag of dark brown that looked matted with sap and dirt. The face was not a face he knew. It had a small muzzle and wide cheekbones and a brow that sloped in a way that suggested both thought and instinct. The eyes were enormous and wet and glinted with a scared intelligence. It made a sound like a broken flute and rocked once on its heels. Anna's hand found Alex's shoulder. She didn't say a word. Her whole body went soft in a way he hadn't seen in months, as if a rope inside her had dropped. The small creature sniffed the air. It took 2 tentative steps toward the door, paused, lifted one hand like a child would when it wanted to be held, and made that soft keening again. Everything felt fragile and lit from within, like a moment that would burn itself into them no matter what came next. Alex lowered the rifle barrel toward the floor without choosing to. He didn't know what he was seeing. Baby wasn't the right word, but toddler wasn't wrong. It was some kind of young thing, helpless, the way young things are helpless. The night behind it felt larger, as if it belonged to a world that extended past their porch into a forest none of their maps understood. "Alex," Anna breathed, her voice broken and new all at once. "Do you see what I see?" "I do," he said, and felt his own voice shake. The tiny creature took another step, glanced past Alex as if measuring the space, then looked up at Anna. Whatever it saw in her must have read his safety. It moved closer, slow and careful, eyes never leaving her face, and made a sound that lived between a cry and a plea. "Hi," Anna said, the word leaving her mouth before she could examine it. "It's okay." The creature made the sound again, softer this time, and leaned toward her, head tipping like it recognized something it needed. "Do we bring it in?" Alex asked, barely a whisper. Anna's fingers pressed into his shoulder. Her answer wasn't just words. It was something like gravity shifting in the room. "Yes," she said. The porch light hummed. The forest listened. The small figure was close enough now that Alex could see tiny leaves tangled in its fur, a scrape on its forearm, a smear of dried red near the elbow that made his stomach turn. It shivered. It took a tiny step over the threshold, as if the line itself held meaning, then reached both arms up toward Anna in a gesture that would have been universal in any species that ever loved. "Come here," Anna whispered, reaching out. The creature let out a breath that sounded like relief. Anna lifted the small creature and felt its weight settle into her like something remembered rather than learned. It clung with surprising strength, arms looped around her neck, face burrowed into the hollow between collarbone and shoulder, where Daniel used to press his cheek when he was done with the world and wanted to be carried beyond it. The fur was damp in places and smelled like rain and sap. She felt a tremble move through its ribs. She rocked without thinking, a slow side-to-side sway that had survived every storm and lived in her bones, even now. Alex set the rifle on the entry table and closed the door with care. His palms tingled, porch's thin circle of light still pushed against the window, trying to hold back the dark. He reached toward the creature, then stopped, nearly pulling his hand back, not from fear, but from a strange reverence, as if this, too, was a holy moment he could ruin by being clumsy. "It's shaking," Anna said. "We need to warm it up." "Blanket," he said, and moved through the living room to the cedar chest. He lifted the lid and paused at the top layer. A knitted throw in a dark blue, a lighter one in gray, a smaller quilt folded on the side. His throat tightened when he saw the small quilt. White triangles inside blue squares, a pattern his mother had taught him to name. It had covered Daniel on the couch during those cold mornings when the kid insisted cartoons were better before sunrise. He set the child quilt aside and took the thick wool blanket instead, then thought again, grabbed the small quilt too, and carried both back. Anna lowered herself onto the couch with the baby Bigfoot still wrapped around her. Alex draped the thick wool blanket over them. The creature's fingers, padded and tipped with tiny nails, curled into the fabric. Its breaths came in small huffs, then steadied, then dropped into a rhythm that made the room feel different. Softer, closer, filled with a living thing that needed them. It lifted its head after a minute and looked right at Anna. The eyes were enormous, the pupils dark and rounded with a band of amber around the edges. They shone with tears, not human tears, not exactly, but wet enough to track down the short muzzle and gather at the chin. It made a low sound that rose and fell, like a question. Anna answered with a whisper. "You're safe here. For tonight, you're safe." Alex had the small quilt in his hands. He hesitated, then unfolded it and placed it over the thick wool blanket. The little creature pressed its cheek to it, sniffed, and gave a tired, soft sound that went straight through his chest. He realized he was holding his breath, so he let air out slowly. He moved to the stove, filled a pot, set it to heat. Water clicked in the pot like a clock. "What are we doing?" he asked, and tried to make it a practical question, not a plea. "We're doing what people do when something small shows up cold and afraid," Anna said. "We're giving it a place to rest." "We should call someone," he said. "Wildlife, a ranger. I don't know. Someone." "Not tonight," she said, and shook her head without looking away from the creature. "We don't know what they do. We don't even know what it is. Not exactly. I can guess, but I don't know. I don't want to hand it to strangers who might treat it like a problem." He opened his mouth to argue. The words lined up, duty words and safety words. But he looked at the curve of the creature's fingers, where they curled into her shirt, and the way Anna's shoulders had lowered for the first time in months. The arguments dimmed. "Tonight," he said, "we keep it here." "Tonight," she said. He warmed milk in a mug and mixed honey into warm water in another. He held both carefully and came back to kneel by the couch. The creature sniffed the air and turned its head. He tried the water first, dipping a spoon, offering tiny sips. It took one, blinked, took another, considered the taste, then made a small, pleased hum that surprised a laugh out of him. Quick and real, a sound that startled him with how young it felt. Anna smiled with that small laugh. "Hi there," she whispered, and offered more. The creature drank, slow and messy, then nudged the cup with its nose. Alex set the milk aside for later. He moved through the motions of care, the ones the therapist had said matter more than we think, the ones that tell our bodies there is still a world that includes us. He wet a cloth with warm water and wiped the dirt from the creature's forearms, careful over the scrape. He gathered leaves from the fur, each little leaf a green comma in the story of its night. He found a piece of fishing line tangled at the back of its calf and snipped it away with scissors, hands steady, body humming. Anna hummed low, an old tune with no words. The creature's eyes slowly closed. Its jaw slackened in that trust only very young things can manage, heavy and complete. Its breath warmed the hollow above her collarbones. Minutes stretched out in a gentle way. The clock on the wall made its tiny knocks. The stove ticked as it cooled. Somewhere far off, a night bird called, got no answer, called again. Anna didn't look away from the creature, but she spoke. "I know we can't keep it. I know that. But I also know I've been empty for so long, and right now I feel something quiet that I haven't felt since we lost him. I'm not going to apologize for that." "You don't have to," Alex said. "I felt it too." They sat like that until the creature slipped into a deeper sleep. Alex lifted it with both arms, surprised by the strength in its limbs, even while slack. He carried it to the spare room, the one that used to be the playroom, and set a folded blanket on the small couch there. He laid the little body down and tucked the thick wool blanket to the chin, then draped the child quilt over it. Creature's fingers flexed once, found the edge of the quilt, and held on like it meant something. He stood there, palms open, watching the rise and fall of a chest that did not belong to his species and yet awakened an ache he knew too well. Back in the living room, Anna met his eyes and took his hand. They didn't say anything. They didn't need to. Grief had taught them a language beyond talk. He squeezed. She squeezed back, a quiet Morse code that said, "We're here." They slept in shifts that night, each one sitting near the doorway of the spare room with a lamp turned low, trading the chair when legs got numb. Close to dawn, the creature stirred and whimpered. Anna picked it up and walked slow circles until it slid back under. She sang a lullaby she thought she had lost. The birds started before the sun showed the world its edges. Mist draped the pines. Cold hung at ankle height. When the sky turned from black to the color of milk diluted with water, Alex stood and set the rifle by the door. "I'm going to see if there are tracks," he said. "Don't go far," Anna said, though they both knew far is a relative thing out here. She looked toward the spare room. "If it wakes, I'll keep it calm." Alex followed the trail through damp earth and moss until his boots pressed into ground softened by blood. It was still dark in the cedars, but enough morning light had gathered for him to see the shape sprawled across the clearing. She was enormous. Her fur was the color of rusted bark, matted dark along her chest and shoulder where bullets had done their work. The smell was sharp, coppery, too human for him to separate grief from shock. Her arms were long, one bent awkwardly beneath her, as if she had fallen reaching for the little one who had somehow escaped. Alex crouched. He saw the prints around her, heavy boots, blocky treads pressed deep. Casings lay scattered in the duff, brass shining faint in the dawn. There had been more than one man, at least 3 rifles firing until she collapsed. His throat went dry. Whoever they were, they had been organized. They had not stumbled on her. They had come here to hunt. The thought of the baby's eyes last night, wet and frightened, clinging to Anna like she was the only safe thing in the world, struck through him with a raw force. He lowered his head, whispered without meaning to, "I'm sorry." The trees gave no answer. Only a crow called once and flew away. He stood and retraced his steps quickly, pulse hammering. Every shadow looked like it could hold more bodies, waiting, watching. When the cabin finally came into view, relief came in a rush that almost dropped him to his knees. Anna met him at the door, the little creature still wrapped in the quilt, pressed close to her chest. She read his face before he spoke. "You found something," she said quietly. "She's dead," Alex answered. His voice cracked in his throat. "Shot up bad. Men in boots. Brass all over the ground. Whoever did it, it wasn't an accident." Anna pressed her cheek to the little one's head. Tears slid down her face without sound. Creature made a tiny whimper, as if echoing her grief. "They killed its mother," Alex said, anger swelling under the grief now. "And I don't know who or why, but it means the woods aren't safe." They moved through the house quickly, shutting curtains, bolting windows, dragging a dresser in front of the back door. Cabin was small, but in that moment, it felt like a fortress they could make stand with will alone. Alex set the rifle on the table within reach. Anna rocked the creature, her lips moving soundlessly against its fur. "What are we going to do?" she asked after a long silence. "We keep it safe tonight," Alex said. "Tomorrow we figure out the rest. Maybe call someone who will not treat it like a lab rat." Anna shook her head. "I don't trust anyone. Not after what you saw out there." She stroked the creature's back. "This is all it has left." Alex wanted to argue, but he could not. The way it curled against her was too close to how Daniel used to cling, trusting them to carry the world for him. He was about to answer when a low crunching sound cut him off. Gravel under tires. A motor rumbling closer. Anna's eyes widened. She shifted the creature behind her instinctively. Alex moved to the window, peeled the curtain back just enough to see. A black truck, rolled slow up the drive, dust hanging in its wake. Big, new, official-looking without any real markings. It stopped in the clearing in front of the porch. 4 doors opened almost in unison. Men climbed out. Not hunters with beat-up flannels, but hard-eyed professionals. Dark shirts, tactical pants, blocky boots. One had a vest with a shiny plastic badge clipped to it, Wildlife Services. Another carried a hard case. They did not move like rangers. They moved like men who had already pulled triggers last night. Alex's stomach dropped. He had not been ready for this. Anna whispered from behind him, "They're here for it." The men gathered, exchanged a few words, then one started up the porch steps. His knock was steady, practiced, 3 raps that echoed through the cabin. "Alex," a voice called, calm and clear. "Anna, we need to speak with you." Anna froze, arms tight around the creature. Alex swallowed hard, forcing himself to breathe slow. He set the rifle against the wall by the door, close, but not in plain sight. Then he tucked his pistol at the back of his waistband, hidden under his shirt. The knock came again. "Alex, Anna," the man repeated. "We know you're in there. Please, come out." Alex turned to Anna. Her jaw was set, her eyes sharp, her whole body trembling with quiet rage. She nodded once at him. He nodded back. "Stay with it. Keep low." Anna shifted into the hallway, cradling the small creature out of sight. Its tiny fingers gripped the quilt, eyes wide, making soft, frightened sounds. She whispered to it over and over, "It's okay. It's okay." Alex straightened, wiped a hand down his face, and stepped toward the door. He unlocked the deadbolt with a click that sounded far too loud in the silence. His hand brushed the hidden pistol once, reassurance, then he reached for the knob. Another knock shook the wood. "Come on out," the voice said again, harder now. Alex tightened his grip on the knob, jaw locked. Anna's shadow lingered in the hallway, knife gripped tight in her hand, heart pounding so loud she could hear it. The little creature whimpered once more, muffled against her chest. And Alex pulled the chain tight, readying himself to open the door. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like and subscribe to Descent into the Unknown for more horror content. If you have any real cryptid encounters, or you're a horror writer wanting to share your stories, please feel free to email me in the description anytime.